Today I have a real highlight for you, a newly developed unit, the BlowVac Backlift. Some of you may have been on IFAD 2018 in Munich, where the BlowVac Backlift, as I was being told, was the secret star of the show. So you must all be eager to finally see the unit in action. Welcome to this special issue of VAC News, the video channel of industrial vacuum applications. My name is Wolfgang Wieland. And here it is now, the BlowVac Backlift in all its glory. It's a mobile vacuum truck with a maximum airflow of 10,000 cubic meters per hour and a maximum vacuum of 75%. That is too much suction power really to work with a handheld suction hose, and therefore the unit has a hydraulic suction boom, which you can see behind me at the moment in its parking position. For a mobile vacuum truck, it's always crucial that it has as many flexible and versatile discharge possibilities as possible, and that was the aim of the newly developed backlift system. The backlift system lifts the container at its rear end to a height where the unit can directly discharge into big 40 cubic meters containers or even directly on a dumper truck. The unit can also be used, the backlift unit, the backlift system, to position the big bag discharge device at the optimum height for various big bag sizes from 1 cubic meter to 2 cubic meters or even larger. So that's really a completely new design which puts the unit in a position where it can work in a very effective and performant way. We will show you this in detail a little later. But now we're not going to tantalize you any longer. Finally, we are going to kick off. I have today Manuel again with me, who has become a real wizard with the remote control. I couldn't do this. With the remote control, we can really control all of the functions of the unit. Of course, the hydraulic suction arm, but also all other hydraulic functions like lifting of the container, opening of the rear door, all the pneumatic functions like the fluidization system for the big bag device, and also other functions like suction on, off, and RPM plus and minus. So this is really a full control of the unit in one remote control. You might ask, what happens if the battery is empty? That's not really going to be a problem. There's of course a spare battery for the remote control. There's also a charger. You can charge the batteries of the remote control in the driver's cabin. And if something doesn't work anymore, there's also a cable remote control to control the suction arm. So now we can really start, and Manuel is going to take away that heap of material over there. So that was quite impressive. Thank you, Manuel, for this. You could see the lateral outreach of the suction arm, which is about 6 meters, and I believe that this should be actually a unique feature of the BlowVac Backlift in its class of vacuum trucks. Together with the 10,000 cubic meters pumps and the high vacuum, this allows for a really impressive suction rate, which you just witnessed. But it's getting better. Most units can only do vacuum work when the collection container is in the lower position. Not so the BlowVac Backlift. The BlowVac Backlift can actually work in any position of the container, and when we want to discharge into the big 40 cubic meter containers, the container remains in the upper position, so that after the discharge operation the container does not have to come up and down again, and that is an enormous time saving, which makes the unit so economic. In order to completely fill the collection container, we are now going to tip the container 30 to 40 degrees so that the material in the container slides to the back and completely fills the collection container in the rear end of the container. That guarantees a maximum filling rate for the container. But if we do that, you're going to say, the suction arm will also tilt and you can't work straight anymore with the suction arm. The engineers of Wieland thought about this and installed up here a second swivel joint so that the suction arm can come back to its straight position. I must say I really love good technology, and the more I work with the BlowVac Backlift, the more I'm becoming a fan of the unit. The BlowVac Backlift is now in another parking position so that we can discharge here. Normally we would just tip the container now and discharge the material here. Today we would like to show you how to discharge in a big container or onto a dumper truck. Unfortunately, we don't have a big container here, so we're going to simulate that. We're going to bring up the container again to its full height and then discharge the material. In between we're going to stop and show you how to discharge material through the big bag filling device, the big bag discharge device. So we're going to discharge some of the material through the big bag device, and then we're going to bring the container to its full height to discharge with the tipping device. I would now like to show you a few details of the BlowVac Backlift. First of all, we have here the pump housing. Inside you can see the 10,000 cubic meter pump. That's a rotary piston pump with the additional cooling inlet so then that we can create the high vacuum. The pump is driven by the engine of the truck through a split shaft which is installed under the truck. That's the main control of the unit. We have here the main hydraulic functions in order to control the container, lifting, lowering of the container, opening of the rear door and opening of the big bag device, and of course also all the functions which are required to control the suction work. And here are two connectors for the cable remote controls which were mentioned earlier. Once again, the radio remote control, as you saw, all of the functions of the truck are concentrated here on this remote control, which is really quite powerful. What you can see here is a control flap or a revision flap. We can open here and access the dust side of the filter, so the dirty side of the filter. We can look at the filter from below, clean the filter eventually if necessary, and also clean the area below the filter if necessary. And this here is the normal suction inlet. If we want to connect flexible hoses to the unit, then of course the suction inlet of the hydraulic boom must be closed. This must be opened and we can connect DN200 hoses here or smaller if required. Once again, the hydraulic suction arm in the parking position. As you can see, the suction tube now is already disassembled. It can actually remain here. There's enough place to put the suction hose, the suction tube as well here during transport of the truck. So that's the view from behind, the big bag filling device. Once again, maybe an important detail, the rear view camera here, that is especially important if you want to discharge in big 40 cubic containers. Normally then one container after the other is being transported to the unit so that the unit remains on site. That's really the main idea. And of course the container cannot be positioned very precisely, so maybe it's probably here somewhere, and then the truck driver has to go backwards to get near the container, and he sees exactly with the rear view camera where he is, so he does not need a colleague to tell him exactly how far away he is from the container. Here another detail which is really a new development, the bypass as it is called. You can see this up here. The unit is equipped to extract liquids as well, so you can extract liquids with the unit. And if this is to be done, or if liquids should be extracted, then the main filter will be closed off from the compartment, but the suction air would usually still go through the main filter, so that with the liquid mist, with the water mist in the air, in the transport air, the liquid would get wet slowly. In order to avoid this, we can completely seal off the filter also in the upper part, and with this valve here, open this valve, and then the transport air goes through the bypass directly to the vacuum pump. This is an important detail if your intention is to extract liquids, because the filter will remain completely dry. That's really an important issue, and once again that's a detail where you can see how much effort the engineers of Wieland put into the design of this unit. Thank you once again for looking in at Vac News, the video channel for industrial vacuum applications. Thank you also to you, Manuel. It was a great job once again today, and we see you at the next video. Thank you and bye-bye.